The livestock market buzzed with noise, shouting traders, clanging cages, and the stench of fear. Farmer Jacob wiped his brow, pushing past the crowd. He wasn't there to buy. He needed to sell his last sacks of wheat before the bank came knocking. Then he heard the whimper. A German shepherd, barely more than bones, cowered in a rusted cage, its golden eyes locked onto Jacob's, pleading in a way that made his chest tighten. The seller spat on the ground. Worthless mutt. Won't guard, won't hunt. Just eats and dies. He kicked the cage and the dog flinched but made no sound, like it had given up long ago. Jacob's calloused hands clenched. He had no business spending money, but the words spilled out. "I'll take him." As he lifted the shivering dog, its matted fur brushed against Jacob's wedding ring, the one he'd worn for 30 years before his wife passed. The dog's ears twitched. Then slowly it licked Jacob's hand. Not gratitude, something deeper. Jacob didn't see the collar hidden under the filthy fur, or the military insignia etched onto it. Jacob carried the German shepherd home, the weight of the dog lighter than the thoughts in his mind. The animal barely moved, its shallow breaths warm against his chest. He wondered what horrors it had endured to be so broken. His farmhouse stood lonely at the edge of the fields, its wooden porch creaking under his boots as he stepped inside. The dog's ears perked slightly at the sound, as if recognizing the familiar groan of old wood. Strange, Jacob thought. Most strays would be nervous in a new place. He set the dog down near the fireplace, the warmth seeping into its thin frame. The animal didn't curl up or whine, just stared at Jacob with those unsettlingly intelligent eyes. "You're safe now," Jacob muttered, more to himself than the dog. He rummaged for an old blanket, something to keep the creature comfortable. When he turned back, the dog was standing. Not weakly, not like the half-dead thing from the market. Its stance was rigid, alert, ears pricked forward like it was listening for something far away. Then, without warning, the German shepherd let out a single, sharp bark. Jacob froze. The seller had said it never barked. The sound wasn't just noise, it was deliberate, a signal. Before Jacob could react, the dog limped toward the door, nudging it with its nose. Then it looked back at him, expectant. "What is it, boy?" Jacob asked, frowning. The dog barked again, louder this time, and scratched at the door. Against his better judgment, Jacob opened it. The dog bolted outside, moving faster than it had any right to given its condition. Jacob followed, his boots kicking up dust as he trailed the animal across the field. The dog didn't stop until it reached the old oak tree at the edge of the property, the one with the hollow trunk. And then it started digging. Jacob watched, stunned, as the dog's paws tore at the earth with frantic energy. Dirt flew, the animal's ribs heaving, but it didn't stop. Not until its claws hit something solid, something metal, a box. Jacob's breath caught. He knelt, brushing away the dirt. The box was small, rusted, but unmistakably man-made. The dog stepped back, panting, its eyes locked onto Jacob's face as if waiting for his reaction. With trembling hands, Jacob pried the box open. Inside was a photograph of him. But not just him in uniform, decades younger, standing beside a group of soldiers, and beside them a German shepherd, the same one now staring at him with the knowing eyes. Jacob's blood ran cold. He had never owned a dog in his life. The photograph trembled in Jacob's weathered hands as he stared at the faded image, his mind racing to make sense of what he was seeing. The uniform was unmistakable. Army greens from his service days, back when he was just a young recruit. But the dog, that made no sense at all. He had never worked with military dogs, never been assigned to any unit that used them. Yet here it was, clear as day in the photograph. This very same German shepherd, younger, but with those same intense golden eyes sitting obediently beside him. The dog beside him now whined softly, nudging Jacob's leg as if urging him to remember something, anything. But his memory remained frustratingly blank, like a page torn from a book. Jacob's fingers traced the edges of the photograph, noticing something else, writing on the back, nearly faded beyond recognition. He squinted, holding it up to the dim light filtering through the oak leaves. "Operation Silent Watch," it read, followed by a series of numbers that might have been coordinates. His stomach tightened. That name meant nothing to him, yet it felt like a key to a door he couldn't find. The dog, sensing his distress, pressed closer, its body warm against his side. Then, a sound, a twig snapping in the distance. The dog's head whipped around, ears flattening against its skull as a low growl rumbled in its throat. Jacob's instincts, dulled by years of peaceful farming but never truly gone, flared to life. Someone was out there. He shoved the photograph into his pocket and grabbed a fallen branch, his pulse pounding in his ears. The dog didn't bark this time. It didn't need to. Its entire body was tense, poised for action, as if it had been trained for this very moment. Footsteps approached, slow and deliberate. A figure emerged from the tree line, a man in a dark coat, his face obscured by the shadow of his hat. "Jacob," the stranger said, his voice rough but familiar in a way that sent a chill down Jacob's spine. "It's been a long time." Jacob's grip on the branch tightened. "Do I know you?" The man chuckled, but there was no warmth in it. "You did once, before they made you forget." He took a step forward, and the dog let out a warning snarl, positioning itself between Jacob and the stranger. The man's gaze flicked to the animal, his expression unreadable. "Still loyal, I see, even after all these years." Jacob's mind reeled. Made him forget? What the hell was this man talking about? Before he could demand answers, the stranger reached into his coat. The dog lunged, teeth bared, forcing the man to stumble back. In that split second, Jacob saw the glint of metal. A gun. "Run!" The word tore from Jacob's throat before he could think, and the dog obeyed instantly, sprinting toward the farmhouse with Jacob close behind. Shots rang out, splintering the wood of the oak tree behind them. Jacob's lungs burned as he ran, his old injuries protesting, but adrenaline pushed him forward. The dog was faster, already at the porch, barking furiously as if calling for backup that didn't exist. Jacob slammed the door shut behind them, locking it with shaking hands. He grabbed his hunting rifle from above the fireplace, his mind racing. Who was that man? What did he want? And why did he act like Jacob should remember him? The dog paced nervously by the window, its eyes darting between Jacob and the outside world. It knew something. It had always known something. Then Jacob noticed something else. The dog's collar, now visible beneath its fur. The metal tag was scratched, but the engraving was still legible. Sergeant. Rex, Unit 7. Unit 7. The pieces clicked together with terrifying clarity. Unit 7 had been his squad during his last tour, but there had been no dog. At least none that he could recall. Unless he wasn't supposed to remember. The dog whined again, pawing at the floorboards near the rug. Jacob hesitated, then pulled the rug aside, revealing a loose floorboard he hadn't known was there. Beneath it lay a small dust-covered journal. The first page bore his own handwriting, though he had no memory of writing it. "If you're reading this, they've found you. Trust Rex. He's the only one who remembers the truth." Jacob's hand shook as he flipped through the journal's brittle pages. each entry more unsettling than the last. The handwriting was undeniably his, yet the words described events he couldn't recall. Covert operations, midnight extractions, a shadowy program called Silent Watch that used specially trained dogs for missions so classified even the soldiers involved had their memories chemically erased after each assignment. The dog, Rex, whined softly and nudged Jacob's knee, his warm breath fogging the aged paper as if urging him to focus on one particular entry dated just before Jacob's medical discharge. They're terminating the program. The dogs remember too much. They'll come for Rex first. I won't let that happen. A sudden crash from the kitchen shattered the tense silence. Rex's ears flattened, and he positioned himself between Jacob and the doorway, his military training overriding his weakened physical state. Jacob grabbed his rifle just as the back door burst open, revealing not the mysterious stranger from earlier, but two new figures clad in tactical gear, their faces obscured by black balaclavas. The lead intruder's eyes locked onto Rex, and he raised a weapon Jacob didn't recognize, some sort of tranquilizer gun with a glowing blue canister. "Stand down, Sergeant," the man ordered, his voice muffled but authoritative. "That's government property you're harboring." Rex let out a vicious snarl that seemed to startle even the armed men. Jacob felt a surge of protectiveness as he leveled his rifle. "This is private property," he growled, his finger hovering near the trigger. "You got 3 seconds to explain yourselves before I start shooting." The second intruder reached for his hip. Rex moved like lightning, clamping his jaws around the man's wrist with a sickening crunch before the soldier could draw his weapon. In the chaos that followed, Jacob fired a warning shot that shattered the kitchen window. The lead intruder cursed and dragged his injured partner backward toward the door. "This isn't over, Harlow," he spat. "They'll send the whole team next time. You and that mutt are living on borrowed time." As their truck peeled out of the driveway, Jacob slumped against the wall, his mind reeling. Harlow. That name rang a distant bell, though his discharge papers clearly said Jacob Willard. Rex limped to his side, licking the sweat from Jacob's trembling hands. The dog's eyes held a depth of understanding no ordinary animal could possess, as if he was waiting for Jacob to finally remember their shared past. Jacob returned to the journal with renewed urgency, flipping to the final pages where the entries became more frantic. His breath caught when he found a folded map tucked between the pages, a topographic chart of the surrounding area, with a red X marking an abandoned bunker deep in the state forest. Scrawled in the margin, "The truth is buried here. They took our memories, but not the bond. Rex will show you the way when the time comes." Outside, the distant rumble of approaching helicopters sent Rex into a frenzy of barking. Jacob's blood ran cold as he spotted 3 black choppers cresting the horizon. He grabbed the journal, the map, and his hunting pack, pausing only to stare into Rex's determined eyes. "All right, boy," he whispered, scratching behind the dog's tattered ears. "Looks like we're going for one last mission." As they slipped out the back door toward the shelter of the woods, Rex leading the way with surprising sure-footedness. Despite his injuries, Jacob couldn't shake the feeling that some part of him had been expecting this moment for years. The dog moved with purpose, glancing back periodically as if to ensure Jacob was following, not just now, but finally following the thread of a truth that had been stolen from them both. The helicopters circled closer, their searchlights cutting through the gathering dusk, but Rex knew the land better than any machine. He guided Jacob toward a hidden game trail that wound deep into the forest, toward secrets someone had killed to keep buried, toward a reckoning 20 years in the making. The forest swallowed them whole, as Jacob followed Rex through the thickening underbrush, the distant thrum of helicopter blades fading into the night. Every muscle in Jacob's body screamed in protest. His bad knee throbbed from the uneven terrain, his lungs burned with each ragged breath. But the dog moved with an eerie certainty, his nose occasionally lifting to test the air before pressing onward. The map in Jacob's pocket felt like it was burning a hole through his jeans, but he didn't dare stop to check it now. Not when every snapped twig or rustling bush could mean their pursuers were closing in. Rex suddenly halted, his body rigid. Jacob nearly collided with him, his rifle swinging up on instinct. The dog's ears were pricked forward, his nostrils flaring as he stared into the darkness ahead. Then Jacob heard it too, the faintest metallic click, like a safety being thumbed off. Rex didn't growl, didn't bark, just slowly lowered his body into a crouch, his military training taking over completely. A figure materialized from the shadows, the moonlight glinting off the barrel of a pistol. "Password," a woman's voice demanded. Jacob's finger hovered over his own trigger. "I don't know any damn password," he spat. The woman stepped closer, revealing a face lined with scars and time. Her eyes flicked to Rex, then back to Jacob. "Cerberus Protocol," she said slowly, watching for his reaction. Something stirred in the deepest recesses of Jacob's mind. A whisper of memory, like a dream half-remembered upon waking. Rex whined softly, his tail giving a single wag. The woman lowered her weapon slightly. "You really don't remember, do you, Harlow?" "That's not my name," Jacob insisted, but even as he said it, the lie tasted bitter on his tongue. The woman, who called herself Maggie, led them to a camouflaged hatch hidden beneath a tangle of roots. As she worked the rusted latch, she explained in terse sentences, she'd been part of Silent Watch too. One of the few who'd avoided the memory wipes because she'd gone AWOL before the program's collapse. The bunker ahead wasn't just a hiding place. It was ground zero for the most classified military experiment of their generation. "Project Cerberus," Maggie said as the hatch groaned open, revealing a steep staircase descending into blackness. They weren't just training dogs to sniff out bombs or track targets. They were modifying them, enhancing their intelligence, their longevity. She looked pointedly at Rex, whose golden eyes gleamed in the dim light. "That dog shouldn't still be alive, Harlow." None of them should. The serum was supposed to give them a few extra years of peak performance. Not ... She trailed off as Rex nosed past her, starting down the stairs without hesitation. The bunker was a time capsule of their forgotten past. Dust-covered monitors lined the walls, their screens dark but intact. Filing cabinets stood sentinel along one wall, their drawers slightly ajar as if someone had left in a hurry. But it was the wall of photographs that made Jacob's legs give out. Dozens of images showing him in tactical gear, always with Rex at his side. In one, he was receiving a medal. In another, he was crouched beside a younger Maggie, both of them grinning as Rex performed some complex series of commands. Maggie handed him a file folder thick with documents. "Read it," she urged, "before they find us." The top page bore a familiar insignia, the same one from Rex's collar, above the words, "Project Cerberus, Phase 3, Human Trials." Jacob's stomach lurched as he scanned the contents. The dogs were just the beginning. The real breakthrough had been the neural link, a way to bond handler and animal so completely that memories could be shared, stored, preserved. Rex pressed against Jacob's leg, his body warm and solid. As Jacob reached down to absently scratch the dog's head, a jolt of something electric passed between them. Suddenly, he wasn't standing in a bunker anymore. He was in a desert, sand stinging his face, Rex barking a warning as insurgents closed in. The vision shattered as Maggie grabbed his shoulder. "They're here," she hissed, pointing to a blinking red light on an ancient security panel. Motion sensors had been tripped at the perimeter. Rex let out a low growl, his hackles rising. Jacob noticed something then. The dog wasn't looking at the entrance. He was staring at a ventilation grate in the corner, his nose working overtime. Maggie cursed. "They're flooding the tunnels with gas. We need to move, now." She yanked open a cabinet, revealing an old service elevator. "This goes down to the real facility. The answers you want are there, but once we go down—" She met Jacob's eyes. "There's no coming back." As the first tendrils of acrid smoke curled through the vents, Rex made the decision for them. He bolted into the elevator, turning to stare at Jacob with those uncanny golden eyes. The message was clear. This was why they'd come. This was where the truth lay buried. Jacob hesitated only a second before joining him. Maggie input a code, and with a shuddering groan, the elevator began its descent into the earth. As the bunker disappeared above them, Jacob felt another jolt of connection with Rex, and this time, the memory that surfaced wasn't of war or training. It was of a lab, white walls, men in hazmat suits, and himself strapped to a gurney, screaming as they injected something into his neck while Rex fought against his own restraints nearby. The elevator jerked to a stop. The doors opened, and Jacob finally remembered everything. The elevator doors opened into a sterile white corridor that hummed with hidden machinery, its fluorescent lights flickering like strobes in Jacob's vision. His knees nearly buckled as the last fragments of the suppressed memory tore through his mind. The needles, the restraints, Rex's panicked barks echoing off laboratory walls. Maggie grabbed his arm to steady him, her grip surprisingly strong for someone so wiry. "The memories will keep coming," she warned, her voice barely audible over the buzzing lights. "The deeper we go, the more the neural link reactivates. That's why they kept you two apart." Rex moved ahead with purposeful strides, his claws clicking against the polished concrete. The dog's nose worked constantly, sniffing at air vents and door seams, his body tense with anticipation. Jacob noticed something disturbing. Rex's breathing had changed. No longer the ragged panting of an abused animal, but something slower, more controlled, almost mechanical. The thought sent a fresh wave of nausea through him. What had they done to this dog? What had they done to him? The corridor branched into a circular chamber dominated by a massive steel door with a biometric scanner. Maggie hesitated, then pressed her palm against the reader. To Jacob's shock, it flashed green. "You still have access?" he demanded, his fingers tightening around his rifle. Maggie's smile didn't reach her eyes. "They never deactivated my clearance. Probably figured I was dead." The door hissed open, revealing a nightmare. The laboratory was pristine, as if the scientists had merely stepped out for lunch. Rows of surgical tables stood in perfect alignment, each equipped with restraints and overhead monitors. Glass-fronted kennels lined the far wall, empty now, but the nameplates remained. Cerberus 1 through Cerberus 12. Rex went straight to Cerberus 7, scratching at the door with a whine that sounded almost human. Jacob's attention was drawn to the largest screen in the room, which flickered to life as they entered. A pre-recorded message began playing, showing a man in a lab coat Jacob instinctively recognized as Dr. Voss, the project lead. "If this activation protocol has been triggered," Voss said, adjusting his glasses, "then the Cerberus subjects have exceeded operational parameters. Initiate immediate containment procedures." Maggie swore and drew her pistol. They booby-trapped the whole damn system. Before anyone could react, steel shutters slammed down over the exits. A synthesized voice counted down from 30 as the vents began pumping in a sickly yellow gas. Rex went berserk, hurling himself at one of the computer terminals until the screen cracked. To Jacob's astonishment, the dog began pressing specific keys with his nose, a complex sequence no ordinary animal could know. The countdown froze at 17. The gas stopped. A single locker popped open with a pneumatic hiss. Inside lay 2 items: a syringe filled with glowing blue liquid and a dog's tactical vest with the Cerberus insignia. Rex nudged the vest toward Jacob, then sat at attention, the perfect military stance. Maggie's breath caught. That's the bonding serum, the final stage of the protocol. She looked between Jacob and Rex with something like awe. They never got to administer it. The project was scrapped when the early subjects started changing. Jacob picked up the syringe with trembling fingers. The liquid inside pulsed faintly as if alive. More memories surfaced. Voss explaining that the serum would make the neural link permanent. That handler and dog would become 2 halves of a single consciousness. That there might be side effects. A thunderous explosion rocked the facility. Dust rained from the ceiling as the sound of boots echoed through the vents. "They're breaching," Maggie warned, reloading her pistol with practiced efficiency. Rex locked eyes with Jacob. In that moment, Jacob didn't need the neural link to understand. The choice was simple: remain broken or become what they were always meant to be. Together. As the first flashbang rolled into the room, Jacob did the unthinkable. He plunged the syringe into his own neck. The world dissolved into pain and light, and the overwhelming sense of Rex's consciousness crashing into his like a tidal wave. He felt the dog's memories as his own. The training, the missions, the years of waiting. But more disturbingly, Rex was experiencing Jacob's memories too. Every moment, every emotion. The boundaries between them blurred, then vanished entirely. When the assault team burst in seconds later, they found only Maggie standing in the center of the room, her weapon discarded. She smiled as the soldier's flashlight swept over the empty vest and used syringe. "You're too late," she told them, her voice thick with triumph. "Cerberus is awake." Outside, in the forest shadows, something moved with unnatural coordination. A man's stride with a predator's grace, a dog's instincts with human intelligence, and watching through shared eyes as their hunters became the hunted. The forest breathed around them, a living, shifting entity that concealed their new reality in its shadows. Jacob, or what had once been Jacob, moved through the underbrush with senses heightened beyond human comprehension. Every rustle of leaves registered like thunder to his ears. Every scent told a story written in the language of pheromones and decay. Beside him, Rex, no longer just a dog, but something more, paused to taste the wind, their shared consciousness analyzing the data in ways neither could have managed alone. The boundaries between man and animal had dissolved in the serum's fiery wake, leaving behind a hybrid awareness that was neither one nor the other, but something terrifyingly new. Memories flickered between them like a shared dream. Jacob saw through Rex's eyes the night soldiers came to destroy the kennels, the metallic tang of blood in the air, as his littermates fell silent one by one. Rex experienced Jacob's wedding day, the warmth of his wife's hand, the crushing grief of her funeral, with the same visceral intensity. The fusion should have been unbearable, yet it felt right. As if they'd always been 2 halves of the same soul. A twig snapped 50 yards northeast. The hunting party was closing in, their infrared scanners sweeping the darkness. Jacob bared his teeth in a gesture that was more Rex than man, as their shared mind calculated trajectories, escape routes, weaknesses. The soldiers didn't realize they were no longer chasing prey. They were being herded. Maggie's voice crackled through a discarded radio one of the men had dropped during their sweep. Subject may exhibit enhanced physical capabilities and tactical awareness. Extreme caution advised. A beat of static, then lower. Remember, we need the dog alive. The human component is expendable. Rage, hot and primal, flared through their neural link. Rex's muscles coiled with lethal tension as Jacob's fingers curled around a rock, edges sharpened to a blade-like point by his newfound precision. They'd been fools to think the bond went only one way, that the human would control the animal. The serum had made them equals, partners. The first soldier died without a sound, his throat slit by a shadow that moved faster than humanly possible. The second whirled, rifle raised, only to be taken down from behind by 90 pounds of fur and fury aimed with military precision at his spine. By the time the third realized his team was being systematically dismantled, it was too late. Jacob Rex circled him, a low growl rumbling from a human throat as canine eyes reflected the moonlight. "You're not Harlow," the soldier whispered, trembling as he backpedaled. The project files never said. A gunshot rang out. The man collapsed, a neat hole between his eyes. Maggie stepped from the trees, smoke curling from her pistol's barrel. "Sentimentality will get you killed," she chided, holstering the weapon. Her eyes glittered with something akin to pride as she took in their new form. The way Jacob moved with Rex's fluid grace, how the dog responded to unspoken commands. Though I see the bonding serum worked better than even Voss predicted. Jacob Rex tilted their head in unison, analyzing her micro-expressions, the quickened pulse at her throat, the dilation of her pupils. She wasn't afraid, she was pleased. Aggie reached into her jacket. Rex's lip curled, but Jacob's human cognition overrode the instinct to attack as she produced not a weapon, but a dog-eared photograph. The image showed a younger Maggie standing beside Dr. Voss and 12 German Shepherd puppies in sterile kennels. "You were never just an experiment," she said softly. "You were the solution, the only subjects who survived the full protocol." Another memory surged forward. Not Jacob's or Rex's, but one buried deep in their combined DNA. A lab explosion, shouting. Maggie smuggling a single puppy out in her coat as alarms blared. Rex whined, recognition flashing through their bond. Maggie wasn't just another soldier. She was the reason he'd lived long enough to find Jacob again. The revelation shattered something in their shared psyche. The world tilted as new synaptic connections fired, unlocking a final, horrifying truth. The Cerberus protocol hadn't been designed to enhance military dogs. It had been created to make soldiers who couldn't be interrogated, because the human subjects weren't the handlers. They were the fail-safes, living, breathing storage devices for classified intel, with the dogs as their only keys. And Jacob's mind held secrets someone was willing to burn the world to protect. The weight of Maggie's revelation crashed over them like a physical blow. Jacob's human mind struggling to comprehend the enormity of what had been done to him while Rex's canine instincts screamed at them to run, to hide, to bite. Their shared consciousness became a storm of conflicting impulses until something new emerged. A third way of thinking that was neither man nor dog, but something forged in the fire of their merging. The forest around them seemed to sharpen into crystalline clarity, every leaf and blade of grass vibrating with potential energy, as their enhanced senses mapped escape routes and ambush points simultaneously. Maggie took a cautious step forward, her hands raised in what might have been surrender or benediction. "You need to understand," she said, her voice low and urgent. "The intel they buried in your mind could topple governments. That's why they'll never stop hunting you. A fresh wave of memories surged through their neural link. Fragments of conversations Jacob had never consciously heard. Coordinates and code words and faces of people who didn't exist in any official records. The information felt like shards of glass in his mind, cutting deeper the more he tried to grasp them. Rex whined low in his throat, pressing his body against Jacob's leg as if trying to anchor them both to reality. Maggie's eyes darted between them, calculating. The serum wasn't just about bonding, she continued. It was about creating a living cipher. The dogs don't just access the memories, they interpret them, filter the trauma. Without Rex, those secrets would have driven you mad years ago. High above, the whump-whump of helicopter blades sent a tremor through the trees. Jacob Rex didn't need to speak to know. The military was deploying thermal scanners now. Standard protocols wouldn't work against what they'd become. Maggie grabbed Jacob's arm, her fingers digging in with surprising strength. There's a safe house 20 miles north, stocked with everything you'll need to... Rex's sudden growl cut her off. The dog's nose twitched violently as he turned due west, his entire body tensing like a coiled spring. Jacob felt it too, a chemical tang beneath the pine scent. Military-grade tranquilizers. They were being herded. Maggie swore viciously and reached for her sidearm, but Jacob stayed her hand with reflexes that weren't entirely his own. "Too late," he rasped, his voice rough with disuse and something other. "They've already surrounded the perimeter." The first drone emerged from the tree line, a silent, spider-like thing with multiple lenses and what looked like a modified dart gun. Rex bared his teeth but didn't attack. Jacob understood why. This wasn't standard issue. This was something new. Something designed specifically for them. The drone's cameras whirred as it focused, and a synthesized voice crackled to life. "Cerberus 7. Stand down for extraction. Authorization Gamma 09er. Maggie went very still. "That's Voss's personal code," she whispered. Her face paled. "He's not just trying to recover you. He's trying to replicate the protocol." A second drone appeared, then a third. Between the mechanical whine of their engines, Jacob could hear the telltale crunch of boots advancing through the underbrush. Too many to fight. Too organized to evade. Rex's mind raced alongside his, analyzing, calculating, then landed on the same terrible solution simultaneously. The only way out was through the heart of the trap. Jacob reached down and gripped Rex's harness. Not the new tactical vest, but the old battered one Maggie had retrieved from the bunker. His fingers found the hidden compartment almost instinctively, as if he'd known it was there all along. The vial inside was tiny, barely larger than a thimble, filled with a substance that glowed faintly amber in the dim light. The final safeguard. Maggie's breath hitched. "Is that contingency protocol?" Jacob interrupted, his voice steadier now. The memories were flowing freely between him and Rex, no longer painful but purposeful. He understood now. The dogs weren't just keys, they were catalysts. One dose left. The drones edged closer, their weapons humming as they charged. Somewhere beyond the tree line, a shouted order confirmed their time was up. Jacob didn't hesitate. He broke the vial under his nose, inhaling deeply as Rex did the same beside him. The world exploded into hyperfocus. Time slowed as the chemical cocktail hit their systems, a last-ditch formula designed to temporarily amplify the Cerberus bond beyond natural limits. Jacob felt Rex's consciousness merge with his own, so completely that for one breathtaking moment there was no separation at all. They were a single entity with 20 senses, a being that could see heat and hear colors and smell the electrical impulses sparking through the drone's circuitry. The first tranquilizer dart missed by inches as they moved with impossible speed, not away from the encroaching soldiers, but straight through their formation. Jacob's hands moved with Rex's instincts, disabling weapons with precise strikes, while Rex's jaws found vulnerable wiring in the drones. They moved as one perfect weapon, leaving chaos in their wake. But the true revelation came as they breached the tree line. The chemical link had unlocked something deeper in Jacob's mind. Coordinates. Names. A shipping manifest for something called Project Janus, dated just 3 days ago. The memories weren't from his past, they were from someone else's entirely. And they led to a facility where 12 new German Shepherd puppies had just been delivered. The amplified bond burned through their systems like wildfire, granting them minutes of perfect synchronization before the chemical edge began to fade. Jacob Rex moved through the forest as a single entity, human intelligence and canine instinct fused into something greater than the sum of its parts. Every snapped twig, every shifted breeze mapped itself across their shared consciousness with crystalline clarity. They didn't need to speak to coordinate their movements. Jacob's tactical knowledge merged seamlessly with Rex's predatory grace, allowing them to slip through the military cordon like ghosts. But as the enhancement waned, a new horror emerged from the depths of Jacob's mind. The memories they'd unlocked weren't just random classified data. They were someone else's, another Cerberus handler's, implanted into Jacob's psyche during the final days of the program. Faces, locations, and mission parameters scrolled through his thoughts like pages torn from another man's diary. Worst of all, he recognized one of the names buried in the stolen memories, Dr. Elias Voss. Not as the project lead, but as Subject Zero. Rex snarled as the realization struck them both simultaneously. The neural link hadn't been designed just for dogs and handlers. Voss had tested it on himself first. Maggie's radio crackled to life again, her voice tight with urgency. Repeat, fall back to Rally Point Delta. They've activated Janus protocol. Static, then lower. Jacob, if you can hear me, it was never about the dogs. It was always about him. The transmission cut off with a burst of white noise. Jacob Rex froze as a new sound cut through the forest. Not helicopters or drones, but the unmistakable chuff of a German shepherd's alert bark. Too precise, too rhythmic. Military working dogs didn't sound like that. A shadow detached itself from the trees ahead, moving with uncanny silence. The German shepherd that emerged was larger than Rex, its coat a sleek black that seemed to absorb the moonlight rather than reflect it. Its eyes glowed faintly amber, not from reflected light, but from something within. The dog didn't growl, didn't bare its teeth. It simply watched them with an intelligence that was far beyond canine. Then it spoke. Not in barks or whines, but in a synthesized voice that emanated from a collar identical to Rex's. Cerberus 7, you are out of protocol. The words were flat, emotionless, but the effect was like a physical blow. Jacob's breath caught as Rex's entire body tensed beside him. This wasn't just another enhanced K9. This was what they were supposed to become. The Black Shepherd, Janus 1, tilted its head as if listening to some distant command. Its collar emitted a soft chime, and suddenly Jacob's vision exploded with fragmented images. A sterile white room. A man strapped to a gurney, screaming as wires fed directly into his skull. A kennel where 12 black puppies whined in unison, their eyes glowing the same unnatural amber. The transmission cut off as abruptly as it had begun, leaving Jacob gasping. Janus 1 took a single step forward, its synthetic voice dropping to a whisper. "Voss remembers you. He wants his memories back." Then the forest erupted in gunfire. Janus 1 vanished into the trees as Maggie burst from the undergrowth, her rifle spitting controlled bursts to cover their retreat. "Move!" she screamed, dragging Jacob toward a waiting ATV hidden in a thicket. Rex needed no encouragement, leaping into the cargo bed as Jacob scrambled aboard. The engine roared to life just as figures emerged from the tree line. Not soldiers, but handlers in black fatigues, each leading a German shepherd with those same glowing amber eyes. The Janus subjects. Maggie gunned the engine, sending them careening down a game trail as the handlers gave chase. "They've been expecting this," she shouted over the engine's whine. "Voss must have implanted the same coordinates in all the original handlers." Jacob clutched Rex's harness as the ATV bounced over roots, his mind reeling. The pieces were falling into place with terrible clarity. The Cerberus protocol hadn't been shut down, it had evolved. Voss hadn't just been studying the neural link, he'd been perfecting it. And now he'd sent his new creations to collect what had been left behind. The ATV's headlights carved a shaky path through the forest as Maggie wove between trees at suicidal speeds, her knuckles white on the handlebars. Jacob clung to the cargo bed with one arm, the other wrapped protectively around Rex as the dog's body vibrated with tension. Behind them, the Janus dogs gave chase in eerie silence. No barking, no growling, just the relentless crunch of paws against underbrush moving in perfect synchronization. Jacob's enhanced hearing picked up the occasional burst of static from the handlers' radios, their voices clipped and mechanical as they coordinated the hunt. "Flank left. Subject 7 must not reach the river. Janus units are cleared for live retrieval." Rex suddenly stiffened, his nose twitching violently. Jacob smelled it too, a chemical tang beneath the pine and dirt, the same synthetic pheromone marker they'd used during Cerberus training exercises. His stolen memories supplied the meaning. This was a drill, a test. Voss wasn't just trying to recapture them. He was evaluating his new creations against the original prototype. Maggie took a sharp turn that nearly flipped the ATV, sending them skidding down an embankment toward the riverbank. "We'll never outrun them on foot once we—" Her words cut off as the engine sputtered and died. She cursed, slamming her fist against the fuel gauge. "They must have hit the tank with a tracker round. We're sitting ducks here." Jacob's vision swam as another wave of foreign memories surfaced. This time, not just images, but sensations. The cold bite of surgical steel against his scalp. The acrid taste of fear as wires threaded into his skull. And beneath it all, Voss's voice, calm and clinical. "The dogs are merely vessels. The true breakthrough is the hive." Rex snarled, his body trembling with the effort of resisting some unseen command. Jacob realized with dawning horror that the Janus dogs weren't just chasing them. They were broadcasting. The same neural link that connected him and Rex was being weaponized as a homing beacon, pulsing through the forest like sonar. Maggie grabbed Jacob's face, forcing him to focus. "Listen to me," she hissed. "Voss didn't just implant memories in you. He split them. Scattered the pieces across multiple handlers as a security measure." She jerked her chin toward Rex. "That's why they need him specifically. Only your dog has the right neural signature to unlock the full data packet." The first Janus dog emerged from the tree line, not running, but walking with deliberate, almost mechanical steps. Its glowing eyes fixed on Rex with terrifying intensity as its collar emitted a burst of static. Then, impossibly, it spoke in Voss's voice. "You were always the most promising pair. Don't make me destroy my masterpiece." Jacob's blood turned to ice. This wasn't just a trained animal, it was a puppet. Voss wasn't waiting at some remote facility. He was here, speaking through the Janus unit's vocal synthesizer in real time. Maggie drew her pistol, but Jacob stayed her hand. He'd seen the truth in those stolen memories now. Bullets wouldn't stop what was coming. The river behind them offered the only escape, but the current would be deadly this time of year. Rex met Jacob's eyes, and in that moment, their bond flared to life with crystalline clarity. They'd faced worse odds before, not in Jacob's memories but in the other handlers, the one whose life had been spliced into Jacob's mind. The Janus dog advanced another step. "You have 5 seconds to comply." Jacob made his decision. He grabbed Maggie's wrist and lunged for the river just as Rex launched himself at the Janus unit in a blur of teeth and fur. The cold water closed over Jacob's head, but not before he saw the impossible. Rex's jaws closing around the Janus dog's collar, the spark of severed electronics, and for one fleeting instant, the glow in the Janus unit's eyes flickered and went out. The river's current swallowed them whole, its icy fingers dragging Jacob and Maggie beneath the churning surface. Jacob's lungs burned as he fought the pull of the water, his enhanced reflexes the only thing keeping him from being dashed against the rocks. Through the murky darkness, he saw flashes of movement. Maggie's kicking legs, the glint of moonlight on submerged branches, but no sign of Rex. The neural link between them had gone frighteningly quiet, not severed but muted, as if the dog had deliberately dampened the connection to protect them both. They surfaced, gasping in a calmer eddy downstream, the sounds of pursuit lost beneath the river's roar. Maggie dragged Jacob onto a gravel bar, her breath coming in ragged gulps. "They'll have trackers in the water by now," she spat, wringing water from her jacket. "We need to move." A low whine cut her off. Rex stood at the tree line 30 yards upstream, his fur matted with blood that wasn't his own. Clamped in his jaws was the Janus dog's severed collar, its wiring sparking faintly in the damp night air, but something was wrong. Terribly wrong. The dog moved with a strange, jerky gait, his golden eyes flickering between their natural hue and the same eerie amber as the Janus units. Jacob staggered toward him, his heart pounding. The moment his fingers touched Rex's head, the neural link exploded back to life with a violence that nearly dropped him to his knees. The memories weren't his. They weren't even the other handlers. They were Voss's. Flashes of a sterile lab, surgical tools glinting under bright lights. 12 black German Shepherd puppies wired to a central neural hub, their whimpering silenced by sedatives. And looming over it all, Voss himself. Except the man in these memories wasn't the cold-eyed scientist Jacob remembered. This Voss trembled as he injected something into his own neck. His reflection warped in the observation glass. Because the real Voss hadn't been standing in front of the glass. He'd been standing behind it. The revelation hit Jacob like a physical blow. The Voss they'd known, the one who ran the Cerberus project, hadn't been human at all. He'd been the first successful prototype, a human-dog hybrid so perfected he could pass for normal. The man behind the glass, the real Voss, had been refining his creation for decades, using each iteration to get closer to something. Something that required Rex and Jacob specifically. The link severed abruptly as Rex convulsed, foam flecking his muzzle. The Janus collar had done something to him. Infected their neural connection with fragments of the hive mind. Maggie grabbed Jacob's shoulder, her face pale. "We have to go now. That collar's broadcasting your location like a damn homing beacon." A new sound cut through the night. Not helicopters or shouting soldiers, but the synchronized panting of multiple dogs breathing in perfect unison. The Janus pack had regrouped, and they were closer than any of them had realized. Jacob tore off his jacket, wrapping it around the sparking collar to muffle its signal. As he lifted Rex into his arms, the dog's whispered thought cut through the chaos of his mind with terrifying clarity. He doesn't want to erase us. He wants to become us. Then the trees erupted with glowing amber eyes. The Janus dogs emerged from the forest like shadows given form, their amber eyes pulsing in unison with an eerie, rhythmic glow. Jacob tightened his grip around Rex, feeling the dog's heartbeat thundering against his own chest, out of sync with the mechanical precision of the approaching pack. Maggie raised her pistol, but Jacob knew bullets wouldn't stop what was coming. The truth had seared itself into his mind the moment he'd touched Voss's memories. This wasn't just an experiment anymore. It was an evolution. The lead Janus dog, larger than the others, with a scar running down its muzzle, stepped forward. Its collar crackled to life, but the voice that emerged wasn't Voss's. It was a grotesque blend of human and canine vocalizations, a sound that shouldn't have been possible. 7, it hissed, saliva dripping from jaws that moved too deliberately for a normal animal. You are the missing piece. Rex growled low in his throat, his body trembling, not from fear, but from the effort of resisting the hive mind's pull. Jacob felt it too, a pressure at the edges of his consciousness, like invisible hands trying to pry open a locked door. The other handler's memories surged forward in response, revealing one final, devastating truth. The neural link between him and Rex wasn't just a bond, it was a failsafe. The real Voss had designed the Cerberus pairs to be unstoppable, but only if they retained their individuality. The Janus hive was stronger, faster, more obedient, but it lacked the unpredictable spark that made Jacob and Rex dangerous. That made them human. Maggie's breath hitched. Jacob, whatever you're going to do, he didn't let her finish. Dropping to his knees, Jacob pressed his forehead against Rex's, their neural link flaring to life like a live wire. The world dissolved into a whirlwind of shared memories. Not just theirs, but the other handlers, the original Vosses, even fragments from the Janus dogs themselves. The sheer weight of it should have shattered his mind, but Rex was there, anchoring him, filtering the chaos as only a true partner could. When Jacob spoke, his voice was raw with the effort of holding the connection. You want our bond? Take it. And then he shoved the full, unfiltered torrent of human emotion, love, grief, loyalty, rage, straight into the hive mind. The effect was instantaneous. The Janus dogs recoiled as one, their synchronized movements devolving into chaos. The lead dog howled, a truly animal sound of anguish, as its glowing eyes flickered erratically. Collars sparked and smoked as the hive's perfect harmony fractured under the weight of too many individual wills reawakening at once. Some dogs fled into the forest. Others turned on their handlers. The scarred leader collapsed, twitching, its final synthesized words barely intelligible. Many souls. Silence fell. Dawn's first light crept over the trees as Maggie helped Jacob to his feet. Rex leaned heavily against them both, exhausted but alive. The river murmured nearby, carrying the remnants of sparking collars and broken tech toward some distant sea. In the days that followed, the official story would claim a military training exercise gone wrong. The few surviving Janus dogs were put down. The facility holding the black puppies was accidentally burned to the ground. Maggie disappeared with a handful of files she'd never let Jacob see, but on a small farm at the edge of the woods, a man and his dog healed. The neural link between them remained, though quieter now, a whisper rather than a shout. Sometimes, in his dreams, Jacob still caught flashes of the other handler's life or felt Rex's memories of a kennel long gone. But that was all right. They'd learned the hardest truth of all. True loyalty isn't about obedience, it's about choice. The military had tried to create the perfect weapon by erasing individuality, but in the end, it was the messy, unpredictable bond between one broken man and one worthless mutt that destroyed their carefully constructed hive. Because some connections can't be manufactured, they can only be earned. Moral lesson: the strongest bonds are forged not through control, but through mutual trust and respect. True loyalty cannot be programmed or forced. It must be given freely, flaws and all. Even in a world that values perfection, it is our humanity, with all its messy emotions and imperfections, that makes us truly unconquerable.